All right. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the third and last session, maybe, of
Don't
Build.
laugh, no.
It ain't going to be the last one.
Yeah,
We got
I
too
know,
much of this
right?
shit to do.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Building Relationship Capital, the first CISO Sellers Mashup Series at Audience First. Today, we're going to be talking about how do I turn a CISO into a loyal advocate. I am your host and moderator, Danny Wolf, CEO at Audience First. For those of you who are new here and for our returning visitors, how does this work? We're going to be unmuting our mics today so that we can get honest feedback from one another. Two cybersecurity sales professionals and two CISOs will have the opportunity to ask each other questions. Today, actually, we're gonna change it up a little bit because I am going to hijack the conversation as well and ask some questions. So CISOs don't have any questions today. It's coming from the sales and marketing side. The goal is to have them and you take away practical tips on how to turn CISOs into loyal advocates, become advocates yourselves, so that you can gain long term personal and business value from each other. So, some housekeeping items. If you have questions for us, the panelists, for me, for anybody on the call in the comments as well, please contribute in the comments. We will open the floor at the end of the session for some Q&A. And if you can't make it through this whole session, that's totally fine. You can head over to audience1st.fm and we will send you the recordings, all three, should you wish, plus some extra goodies. Once again, thank you to our brave and awesome panel who have set time aside for the third time in a row to tackle a hot topic in security. If that's not loyalty, I do not know what is. Thank you to also those who are still feeling under the weather, Erica and Dimitri. Holy moly, they are not feeling well. Thanks for coming on. I know that it's not easy, so feel better. All right.
Expected attrition due to COVID. And this stuff is just not going to go away.
We are wishing everybody healthy vibes and a speedy recovery. Okay, so I want to open up the floor today with two questions, one for the sellers in the house and one for the CISOs. For the sellers in the house, why do you think more security firms and startups are not leveraging advocacy as a strategy for retaining and even acquiring new customers? There's this large focus on net new ARR, getting that net new logo acquisition. What is it about advocacy that's kind of left to the side?
Question? That's an open question. Is that you're just throwing that out there?
Yeah.
Man, I think probably with all sorts of situations like this, it's a, from top down leadership type of thing. And then I also really do believe, and I mentioned this last time, that with startup culture and with people trying to rev up so fast, and especially in the SaaS space where it's all about licensing, I mean, it's really trying to go to market as quick and as fast as possible. And sometimes I think through that process, like the building of relationships and a lot of the things we're talking about get bypassed because, I mean, there's a sprint in order to get from series A to B and so on in order to become viable. I mean, there's a whole roadmap in gaining clients quickly or customers quickly or seats quickly. I mean, that seems to be kind of a part of a lot of that. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's something that I would imagine is somewhere in the mix here.
Yeah.
I think that we're just too focused on money and growing the ARR and the revenue, and we just forget everything, and it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that all companies don't try that, but I just think that the startup culture specifically is so worried about, getting the next round of funding, getting Wall Street to be happy with them, whoever their investors are, that they just forget about all of that and they lose it all.
Any color commentary from the CISOs?
Yeah. We talk about, Dan, what you're talking about is lasting change, right? So we're talking about what's happening now, what we would like to see, which is retention and working on existing customers a lot more than just the new one. So if we take that as the lasting change, as the goal of the lasting change, we would consider, why is it not happening, right? That's your question. Why is it not happening? And usually whenever lasting change isn't occurring, it's one of the three reasons. Either people don't know, so unknowing people can't, unable, either they know but they can't, or they know and they can but they don't want to, unwilling, right? So we have people that don't know, people that don't know how, and then people that don't want to. And it's a pyramid. The people don't want to, it's usually the smallest amount, and the people that don't know how, and then people simply are not aware. And for each one of those three, there is a thing you can do to improve the situation. So for people that don't know, it's communication, what we're doing right now. So starting point is education, communication with people that simply don't know, unaware. People that don't know how, again, what we're doing is exactly into that category. We are hitting them and telling, okay, well, if you understand that this needs to happen, but you don't know how, just follow these 1, 2, 5 steps. And finally, the smallest group of people that are unwilling. And for those, it's about motivation. How do we motivate the people that know it should happen and know how to do it, but why aren't they doing it? And it comes down to, honestly, cybersecurity issues we're dealing with. And people just don't do what they know that needs to happen and know how. And they don't understand the why. So the why, to your point, 5 to 25 times less resources spent making money, right? So giving them very specific statistics, again, bringing it back down to what cybersecurity does, giving people numbers and say, look, if you just do it, then this happens. Oh, wow. Okay. So now that's motivation. So I think those three things, if we do them, continue to do them, then we're going to get that lasting change.
All right.
Mhm.
I'm going to comment in and I'll keep mine short and sweet. It comes down to, and somebody just said it in here, it comes down to logos. So having worked on the sales side and having seen how sales and marketing's worked all too often, and the commentary was already made, you have to go get new logos. You have to go get the Fortune 500 client. You have to go get this. You have to focus on named brands to be able to show value to the investment companies, et cetera, et cetera. So the more of those you get, the more chance you have. So yeah, once you've got us, that's great. You got us. Now you move on to the next kill, or you ask us to help you move to the next kill. It's all about money, and it sucks.
Yeah. I want to take a few steps back. We touched on the answers to this next question just slightly through Dimitri just now and in the previous sessions, but for the CISOs in the house, why is advocacy particularly critical in the cybersecurity industry?
Because it's all based on trust. I mean, I don't, not many industry. I mean, I'll say it like this. Industries where protection is one of the things we're trying to achieve, protecting someone or something, they're primarily built on trust, trusting in a tool, trusting in a process, trusting in the people. And the best way to show trust that you are trusted is by having people advocate for you. I think that's probably,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
mean,
with doctors.
I'll add to that. I just had a vendor last week. We were negotiating on price, and they're like, "Hey, if you can either A, sign by end of October, which isn't going to happen because of our purchasing process, or B, if when you're happy with us, if you could introduce us to a couple of friends." And I mean, that's more powerful to them than probably anything else. Because again, if I talk to Dimitri and say, "Hey, I've got this vendor, I've been using them for 6 to 12 months, they're absolutely fantastic," the chances are Dimitri is going to take a look at him if it falls into the remit of what he's looking to have done. Or we take it to the Tinkerers groups or the CIO groups that we have, and it's a positive feedback. So, I mean, it's as simple as that.
Mhm.
I just booked a demo with a company because I saw a CISO I follow on LinkedIn go work for them.
Mm.
And I reached out and I said, I'd like to schedule a demo. And then someone responded on LinkedIn, blah, blah. And I said, I just saw this person go work for you. So that's why I'm reaching out. Have you seen a lot of this happen? And they go, oh, yeah, this has been happening a lot lately. And just a single person, all it takes, someone I trust in the industry going somewhere, meaning that they've done the work It's a shortcut. It's always about saving me time, right? It's someone else doing the research that I trust. That's it.
Now, the caveat on that one, because I fell into that trap as well. I went and hung out with the folks over at Ativo and Calvio, and that was good. I mean, it was good conversations. But then I went out to sign it. And unfortunately, what I was told versus what it was so very, very different. So I got in there, looked around, and went, "Holy shit! What you get told at interview versus what you actually work on." So I mean, I backed out of that inside 3 or 4 months, I think it was, because it was a shit show. And so unfortunately, there were a lot of folks. We started a community, the whole lot, and it fell to pieces. And that damages the reputation because they're like, "Well, hang on, we followed you," and I'm like, "Sorry, I made a mistake."
Yeah.
Yeah, see, from the seller side, that is one of my worst fears is asking somebody, a customer to give me a referral, and then we fall on our faces to those referrals. So you have to be very, very careful with that as well. And that's why we ask for referrals, as you both know. Once you're happy with us, give us a referral because we need those. Because sometimes we just can't get to where we have to be. But it's also you have to be really careful because I could fall on my face and make you look bad. So it's a very
The
fine
thing,
line.
the thing about advocacy and referrals is that I will actually follow up on a referral I make because
Mm-hmm.
it's my name. It's Chris's
Yeah.
name as much as anything else. He told someone, "Hey, I trust those guys," and those guys fell on their face. All right, hold on. Let's figure this out. So I actually am going to engage myself and say, what happened? What didn't work out? And maybe I'll even do my CISO translation thing. Oh no, you guys are in violent agreement. Let me explain to you why they couldn't tell you exactly what should have been told, and that's why you misunderstood what they told you. So that's another benefit of advocacy. You are actually getting an advocate for yourself for some time. And even if you fail in that demo, if I introduce you and you fall on your face, a lot of the times I can help you fix that, or at least learn from that experience, and maybe even get another shot at it.
Okay, here's where I hijack the conversation. This is fun. I
Squirrel!
wasn't squirrel. I wasn't originally going to ask this question, but now that we're talking about referrals, customer stories, case studies, it's a challenge to produce those inside, as a marketer inside the vendor, right? I know firsthand, either because of legal reasons or buyers not wanting to expose the association with the vendor and the product and the technologies. Even those anonymized ones are hard to get, right? So as a marketer, instead of thinking about what you want in exchange for a reference, what can be a good alternative to transactional referrals and references on websites in order to enable people like Erica and Carlos?
Make sure I understand the question. What would
So
Erica and Carlos want to concentrate on to make sure that the referral is valuable?
Well, there's that, but me as a marketer, right?
Yeah.
I want to produce those customer stories in order to publish them for validation on the website and in order to enable Erica and Carlos to use that in their, relationship building process, right? Instead of thinking of customer references as transactional references, like what do you want in order to get a reference back?
I got you.
What is a better alternative approach to that that will increase the success
Ooh.
rate to actually get customer
got-
stories
If
published?
you don't mind, let me take a first stab at this one.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because we've done this, and we did this with Signet, not Signet, Muppets. We did this with Cyber Six Skill. So we ended up basically doing roundtables. And what we ended up doing was, hey, it was almost like a potential customer CISO type roundtable. And it was a fantastic way of doing it because I hate the idea of being pinned up on a board and everybody pointing, going, "Look, we got Chris," or any of that, we got the company he's with, or any of that bullshit. That pisses me off. That will never happen. But I'm more than happy to sit down with a number of my peers and go, "Hey, Let's talk about threat intelligence. Yeah, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of threat intelligence. Let's talk about the questions you ask. Let's talk about how you look at it. Let's talk about how you evaluate it. Let's talk about this, because half the folks around the table are probably not fully aware of what needs to happen within a different realm. But you get an interactive conversation. You get these discussions that happen where either it's business or it's education. If it's done as an education thing, something happens out of it, great. But to me, it's much more of a live, interactive set of conversations rather than just you end up plastered all over a freaking website and all that bullshit.
But
We,
then
we,
how? Mhm. Sorry, Dimitri, go
we
for it.
no, I'll add to what Chris said. We talked about this during at least one or maybe both of our previous sessions. Um, it's not about a project. It's about a program. It's not about transaction. Danny, to borrow your term, it's about a relationship. So the way you make sure that it's not a transaction is by not making it a transaction, is what you're
Mm,
advertising. It's not that you bagged Chris, right? It's not enough to get one moose
mm,
that may or may not last you through the winter, depending on the size of your family. But if you tell me I now have a consistent source of meat or fish, and we have a program established that feeds my family through the whole winter, that is worth advertising. Not the fact that we bagged one Chris or one Dimitri. It's that Chris is successful at achieving something consistently at what he's doing. Dimitri is successful. So now if I'm referring to Chris, I'm not saying we got a Chris. Chris is going to be upset about that. We're saying Chris is super successful doing this thing and we are helping him. And Chris will be super happy to talk about that because you, in fact, you are, assuming you are, the fact you are helping him consistently and you are interested in Chris's progress and success. That's what you advertise. And so it cannot be a transaction. If it is, then thank you. Thanks, Chris. And then it's right back to, yeah, that's a moose. And then we're right back to transactional.
I'm the moose.
Yeah, so back me up. And we're back to transaction. So if you make a transaction, you're going to get transaction, and then that's not going to work very well.
And Dimitri's got a perfect point on this one. I mean, it's really, really good way of doing it. I think that way it also makes that CISO or those CISOs part of the process. There's no way I'm going to run a round table if you've pissed me off. There's no way we're going to run a round table if we haven't been through a couple of hiccups, ads, moves, changes, and issues. We're going to run a round table if, hey, it's been implemented, it's been integrated, the after support is working okay, and I'm happy standing up and saying, hey, shit smells sometimes, but it works perfectly.
And I would add to that that failures, issues, are actually a good thing to talk about. Hey, we've been rolling out vendor A and we ran into an issue. But John Smith from vendor A was amazing. He stayed with me throughout the whole process, very quickly identified this gap. And yeah, it's, there's something that they need to work on in the product, and they are. And I'm waiting when this comes out. But in the meantime, they've earned my trust because they didn't leave me alone with this problem.
mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned this, and before I ask Carlos and Erica to either kind of, comment or take that down a path. It's just, I love that you touched on failures and pains, because I, as well as some, colleagues of mine, are interested to know if expressing those pains or sharing those pains and challenges shows vulnerability. Are you okay with that amongst your peers? Is that something that is frowned upon, or does that help you succeed?
I think it depends on background. I mean, everybody, I share almost everything on LinkedIn. I share a lot of shit on LinkedIn because then that way there's a human behind it. That way if you're going to call me up on a Monday morning, I might have not had a good weekend and you're going to get your ass torn for a reason. Or your seventh or eighth message is about to set me off. I just had one Muppet sent one in this morning. And I'm going to tear him a new one. Danny, you're getting copied on it. But I think that's one of those things, showing you're human and those weaknesses. We all know that rarely, if ever, does anything go in smoothly. We all know that there are issues, yet we do such a good job of varnishing over them and hiding them. And we shouldn't do that. We should acknowledge the fact that there are issues and challenges. We should understand what it takes to affect the change and to actually work through them. And this, I think, is that huge difference between a vendor and a partner. A vendor's going to be like, yeah, all yours, or blame six other people. A partner's like, hey, I'm bringing in the coffee. I got the donuts for the entire team. What else can we do to help?
Nice. Carlos, Erica, do you want to touch on that a little bit or dig in?
Well, one thing that's interesting, and this has been brought up in now 3 episodes, is the difference between the transactional purchase, or a program built upon trust and partnerships and those sort of things. I'd say that the reason that I'm interested in the relationship aspect of selling and doing things in the way that I've decided to do them, in a lot of ways that kind of line up with our firm's values, is that, I mean, it's kind of what works and what's sustainable. I think that the way that Chris and Dimitri and a lot of the folks in their positions are approaching buying, it almost requires some sort of advocacy or some sort of digging in. I mean, there's certainly plenty of transactional stuff that's happening, and I guess the question is why, because a lot of those are getting forwarded to you, Danny, for for your website and for your and Chris's show. So I guess I don't know if that's more of a statement, but I'm also curious about, for thinking about relationships for Dimitri and Chris. I mean, how many like business people, vendors slash partners, do you have in your quiver? I mean, do you have like a handful of folks that you're just going to go to? I mean, is that something that's, a part of your approach overall?
There are some that I like when if Danny were to ask me, hey, who is a person
Right.
like that? I have probably like enough to count on one hand. But there are some, right? And the number is growing. And especially after these sessions we're having, I'm starting to get a lot of people reaching out to me and saying, "I'm not here to sell you. You're not even in my territory, but we'll just build the relationships." Now I'm getting some really weird attempts. Someone goes, "Hey, I see you're in Boston, and there's winter coming. So how about we talk about my product?"
Winter's coming.
Yeah, or something really weird. Like I can
I
see how
get
you
it.
made the logical connection between where I am and the winter is coming, but how does that connect with uh, my I don't know, endpoint detection and response tool? It doesn't. So we still got we still got some teaching to do, some splaining to do here, for people to start doing this, engaging this a little bit better. But I'm liking that it's changing. So it feels like we're making a difference.
I think so. And my point in the beginning was just because, I mean, I think that what you're saying is your approach and your preference is I mean, people's behavior, sellers' behavior has to change to some degree. I just think that that's a natural progression. And again, I do it. I mean, I enjoy working this way, but also it works. I mean, or it's the only way that seems to not only work, but is also sustainable, which are two important things, I think, to pay attention to. Which again, back to the first, when VC and private equities involved, and people are going through funding, it's a little bit different.
But it shouldn't be different. And I think that's the big thing.
It
It
probably shouldn't
shouldn't.
be. You're
And
right.
that's the huge part about it. And I think that's where everybody's missing it. We're all sitting here saying, hey, here's how it needs to happen. How do we get those messages to the VCs, the funders, those types of organizations? Like, hey, we're about to hand you money, go sell shit. Or go saturate the market, go take market share, but doing it in a responsible, quite honestly, an ethical way. Um, that's the part where we've got to get hold of the heads of all these organizations and say, hey, you realize most of your audience is getting pissed off with your tactics. You got to change it. And the authenticity, the trust. the ethics and the morals are going to come back into this somehow or other.
And
See,
I think that's. Oh, Eric, go ahead. Sorry.
Erica, yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, and that's where I keep saying the sales process is broken. How do we fix that? That's all I wanted to add, is because I'm in agreement with Chris, and I know I'm a seller, but it's broken. How do you get a VC to say, okay, let's build relationships instead of worrying about my top line or my bottom line?
This is
Go ahead,
this is
Dimitri.
why we're having this session. This is primarily why Chris named some names just now in one of the previous comments. I know that some of the names he named are working hard exactly on this. They are recognizing that this is a problem. Maybe they won't be successful at fixing it, but at least there's now attempts at it. And again, it's on us. Every conference you go to, there are startups. Every cybersecurity event you're going to have with a vendor involved, raise this topic. It's just like with anything that's happening that's massive and big and retroactively going to say, oh, I should have done more. This is your opportunity to do more, but do that now. So engage, call it out. If you can, try to be gentle. If you can't, that's fine, but at least offer some help. And how do they put it? Be constructive with your feedback. But
so
that we're doing it. I mean, this is why we're doing this.
This kind of, go ahead. Sorry, I was going to say this kind of goes into my question that I have for you guys.
So basically what you're telling me is I shouldn't have just called the founder and CEO of Obsolift a presumptuous arse. Yeah, that
no,
happened.
I think that as soon as you say that, you should tell them because.
Oh, I did.
ABC.
I explained why, yeah. And the
So
5 emails that he previously said, and then he basically threatens my engineering team. Yeah, not a smart little buddy. And it's stuff like that. It's like, hey, this can't happen. That's not how you do this properly. And it came in just as we were online. So it's like, game on. And I think that's where it gets to be a problem. It's like, you just flooded my email 5 times. You told me you weren't going to spam me, and now you threaten my engineering team. Yeah, that's not how to sell to me. That's not how to sell to anybody in this industry.
I think that's opposite of advocacy, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll flame them because you know what? They don't need to be in our industry. They're harming it, not helping it.
So with this being said, this actually is a good segue. So what is the best way to keep you engaged and loyal to my brand? So if we're getting to the point of where I have you engaged, how do I keep you engaged? How do I keep you loyal? What is the best way to do that? Is it continuous education, event invites, regular FaceTime? What is that? Can you expand on it a little bit more?
Dimitri, you want to take this first? Because I got some ideas on this as well.
I'll start. Be familiar with the why. Why do we have you, and how is that going? That's your number one priority. What is it that we got you for? What is that progress that we were aiming for that we hope you will help us with? And are we on our way there? Because as soon as we slow down or stop, you starting to get, that's a ticker starting of shelfware expiration date, right? As soon as you become shelfware, even deployed, you can become shelfware. And if your product, if you're not helping me make my deployment of your product the best deployment you have, then it's on its way to becoming shelfware. So if you want to retain me, as a customer and as an advocate, you have to continue to be interested in the primary reason we got you in the first place, and do anything and everything in your power to help me be successful in that progress target.
One of the things that came up last time was, we talked a little bit about taking people out to things and like that aspect of building relationships. I've just assumed that during this process, like some of that stuff is kind of nice to have, but not certainly a need to have. And some folks don't need it at all. I mean, I think, who was it? James mentioned over here, that, building and, and maintaining relationships is hard and time consuming, I would just always assume that, doing what you say you're going to do and solving problems ends up, solidifying the relationship in real ways that should allow for all the things to happen that you guys want to happen, as opposed to something that might be a little superficial and maybe even friendly.
I think all of the stuff that you want to do or what you're taught to do to maintain a relationship is like special stuff you do to maintain a relationship, as opposed to simply doing the job. And some of it might mean not just you, right? We're talking about the sale. Erica and you, Carlos, you were on the sales side.
That's right.
But we continue to talk about CSM, customer success management, as a massive part of a sales
Huge.
process. We talk about retaining customers. The only way you can do that if you have some form of CSM. It cannot be just the salespeople. That's not going to work. It's not enough of you, and you do need to go and look and work with new, right? Help newer me. But there has to be a CSM. So some of the companies we work with, that's one of the things we tell them, like, maybe you're okay from the sales process, but your CSM sucks. And so that means your sales process is now kneecapped. You can't walk because you're missing your knees. Okay. So get some knees, and then you can start trying to walk again. And, part of relationship building, all that, because the CSM is also going to help me with my project, my progress, all that stuff I talked about earlier.
So I'm going back to Erica's point, directly back to Erica's point on this one. And I think we've talked about it a bunch, and it varies from the mainstream current sales model, which is know your audience. If you come up to me and say, hey, we got a steak dinner, I'm really not interested. If you come up to me and say, hey, you know what, let's grab a coffee, we've got some really cool stuff on the roadmap, then I'm up for that conversation. I think the other part of it also goes as well, and that's tough, because that means somebody somewhere's got to be taking some bloody good notes. Let's talk about the roadmap thing. I've bought your product, and you're going to come back at me in 6 or 12 months' time for some more money. That shouldn't be the first conversation. Where are you going? What are you doing? How's the company doing? I'm interested in that because you're in as a key part of my enterprise organization. You are part of my risk model. Therefore, rather than me having to ask the questions, I want to just generally know. Again, hey, Chris, you got half an hour chat for a catch up for a coffee, or a monthly cycle, or whatever it needs to be. And I think that hits that third point, which is engage with me for more than just money. Again, perfect example. I'm naming names today because it is what it is. The folks over at Newspire, Maria and the crew over at Newspire, I'm having side conversations on text message because she follows the LinkedIn. We talk about stuff in general. How's life? What's going on? How's the world today? Danny and I did it, for crying out loud. When over at CyberSecurity, it wasn't just all business. It was just checking on life. So, and you don't want hundreds of those, but there's some key ones of those that you'll pick out and go, hey, they care for me as a human being more than just a source of money.
Mm-hmm.
Get it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That
A lot
makes
of
sense.
it does, and a lot of that I would imagine has to come, from the top down, company wide, to sort of take that approach. But even still, even if you have those side relationships where you like people, if their company can't take care of you, then that's going to be hard to still engage, right? So that's where it becomes, like, I guess, big picture, right?
But then then you take that in a different direction. Then what you do, and again, this is from having done this. I've done this from the sales side, and I've sat down with a bunch of the CISOs and gone, hey, we're working together because of the relationship we have. But I know you're getting fed up with A, B, and C. Let's get together, craft a message, and go back to the organization and go, hey, your audience doesn't like what's going on. How can we fix it? Advisory board, all this other kind of stuff, where that organization can now be shifted by the voices of the leadership that they've engaged with outside. Or maybe it's a forced function. So there are ways of doing it effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was on the vendor side, I've used it multiple times. I would get customers in a room, and I would say, "You are all." There's like 10 of them in there, and I would say, 10 of you or 9 of you mentioned this thing that doesn't work or works very inconsistently. My word means almost nothing to my product manager, but your word means a lot more. So how about we just work together, put together a message that all of you can sign under. I can then take that and bring it back and say, look, all these customers have this problem. But that's me maintaining multiple CSM level relationships with customers for their sake. For their sake, and then only then for the pride of my company and my work, right? So it's like, okay, I'm trying to help them and my company's not letting me. So we're all failing them, the customer. So then I'm going to go back and fight. And at the end of the day, you know what might happen? Maybe you leave. But you're going to leave and Chris is going to remember you as the person that tried to help me, couldn't get it done. Company wouldn't back them up and they went elsewhere. So that person is trusted. Company, maybe not.
That's awesome.
Right. Perfect way of looking at it.
I love it, and I love the fact that you're implying here that customer research, voice of customer data should not be siloed to marketing and product marketing.
Absolutely.
Everybody should be interested in gathering that data in order to impact the whole business. It ties into the whole life cycle of the customer. How can I trickle that upwards, Carlos? Right? How can I trickle it up to the C level? Because it should come from top down, but it doesn't.
In
in
an
several
industry
cases.
that is in an industry that is so measured, right? So many things are numerical and quantified and everything else. It is shocking to me how little product involvement and achieving targets is folded into that. I don't understand how that's possible. I don't understand how only the new slivers are what people are measured on, not the full package. I don't know. I'm sure. I mean, again, that's why we're having these conversations, but that's like a revolution waiting to happen.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a challenge. Also, it's a challenge. Even on the advocacy side, right? And again, this is also a great segue. When you take a look at the number of advocacy programs that vendors are pushing out, it's almost as if we're back to square one, where it's like, oh my God, as a vendor, how do I differentiate my advocacy program? And how do I stand out? And how do I get them in my peer-to-peer group? And how do I get this number of CISOs in this group? And how do I so I'm just like, my mind is blown. And
You know
we're
what?
back.
Wait a second. Hold on. So this is an important point you just brought up. You just gave 2 or 3 measurement points, whatever they call KPIs, right? Those are 2 or 3 KPIs of measuring an advocacy program, right? Like, how many Chris's did you bag?
Yes, right. And
How many
Yeah.
meese? Is it meese or mises or mooses? Or
Meese.
Mooses. Mooses. How many mooses?
I'm gonna say meese. How many meese did you bag? Right. That's a KPI, but that's not a true KPI. It's like how many viruses did you catch? That's not a good KPI for an EDR.
How many
right?
customer stories did I get? How many acts of
Right,
advocacy did I push?
and
Back,
their
tied back
effectiveness
to
and their
pipeline. Yeah.
efficiency, right? So that we start. So it almost tells me that the overall approach to selling and advocacy is in the, if you look at like CMI maturity model, you're like at level 1, 1.5, maybe 2. You're barely above ad hoc. You're barely above just barely enough handling incident response, proverbial, in sales techniques. You're not even close to defined. You're not measuring for sure. And for something that is years old, multiple dozens of years old, again, that's kind of a shock. But again, maybe that's something we can help fix.
It's interesting. Well, copycatting is, people copycat, right? They start to see like what's working. And then it's like a lot of things in culture where the first sort of iteration of that tends to be somewhat new and unique and it kind of seems wholesome in some ways, right? And then, that works. Everybody sort of jumps on it. And then you got to check. It's like your favorite band, right? It's like the ones that hit and like where art and commerce come together and you're like, boom, right? And then there's like 20 Matchbox 20s or whoever people don't like for different reasons. I shouldn't jump on them. I'm not even a big whatever, but you get the point, right? It starts to dilute over time.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you have to keep rising the cream to the top. It doesn't just happen. It's not a single event. It's an ongoing process of trying to make things better and try to be authentic and all those things.
Okay. So this takes me to my next question and expanding on that, given the sea of advocacy programs and communities and all that kind of stuff. Are there any differences or anomalies right now in the cybersecurity industry that vendors can take advantage of to stand out in regard to those programs? Like, what can we how can we leverage some kind of differentiator? What is that? What, in your opinion, is a differentiator for to stand out and for, for you to say, okay, I want to join this community or this program or this board, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
go.
value. We're back to value.
Yeah,
Where do people get the most value? It's like it's the same thing. Like if those programs are looking for who is the best, let's go follow them. Same for us. Me and Chris are probably looking the 3 seconds we have left in the week. Where
Yeah.
where can I spend those 3 seconds with the biggest bang for my buck? Like who am I going to follow on LinkedIn? Which podcast am I going to listen to of the 1,500 that are available? Which one is the most valuable? How am I going to know that? Through people like Chris, through other people, through Donnie's, from Carlos, from Erica's of LinkedIn that we trust. Oh, they've read this or copied this or reposted or whatever. What is that? That's interesting. Chris mentioned a while back Tinkerers Network. I was part of that for a while, like last 3 years probably. That's it's a small community, and but this value is continuous, just like a value waterfall. It's so much that I don't have time for all the value that comes out of that network.
You and I both, yeah. And I think that's, exactly to your point. I mean, I cut down the amount of Slack channels, the amount of Discords and everything else, and it's pretty much so the Tinkerers and a couple of others. Because there's too many areas, there's too many sources, there's too many places to look. There's not an effective, I guess, centralization. I mean, we talked about this one in the first and second one. I really would love to go to as independent as humanly possible location to go look at 10 different threat vendors and go which ones are good, bad, and ugly as defined by our peers. Which ones do we care about on endpoint? Who's good and bad? If I'm looking at this vendor, I want to go to one central single place and go, hey, what do my peers think about them? And we're not just talking CISO peers. I'm talking about peers just in the industry, folks who are starting out in the industry. How does this company treat just general engineers that are starting out in this industry? Just because I'm a CISO shouldn't honestly mean I get special treatment. They should treat everybody the freaking same. How many of them are, that when then you turn around and any vendor, the first place I go to is I go straight to their website. I go to look at their leadership. If their leadership all look like me, I'm not doing business with them. End of conversation. And so I want to know who's actually looking to change the industry, bring more diverse thought, bring more diverse people, bring a more diverse mindset into into this industry. So that's a huge part for me as well. And there's no good central place to do that. We've all had conversations, and a couple of folks in the audience have said a few things, but I want a good, well-defined one.
I'm advising a startup right now. I think they're still in stealth, so I don't think I can say the name. But they're talking about doing something similar, sort of crowdsourced. Crowdsourced meaning industry practitioners
Yeah,
being the moderators for the information that is
yep,
then available to the practitioners. It's whether it's just news and articles and this is really good research or this is a good vendor, whatever may be the case. And then correlating that to day-to-day operations and being able to tie one with the other, right? Things like that. So I think this is starting to happen again. Oh, you got rid of the moose. But I think we still got some ways to go.
I would agree.
What are some, great examples of advocacy programs or communities that have stood out to you in the recent past? We don't need to name names, but maybe kind of stories or examples.
Within just general stuff, because I mean,
For
you've got stuff
for for
like,
you for you specifically, what has helped? What has been valuable to you specifically that has
ooh,
been based on advocacy programs or communities or boards or that?
I like.
What do they
I
look
mean,
like?
that's a there's, you got everything. I love Joanna Udo and the crew that she's got bridges in tech, and I love that because again, it's an advocacy group for a very, very specific reason. And I love the fact that there's practitioners in there from all levels and at all levels. There's a lot of good individuals. Dimitri and I talked about the Tinkerers group. That's another good one. But there's some amazing people in there, and you tend to use those. Chris Costello's got some amazing folks on it. You've got who's doing the Lone Star one? What's his name down in? There's some good groups out there. I'm trying to think of a couple of others. Dimitri, who else you got?
I'm still benefiting from the SANS advisory board. Now you gotta clear a bar to get on it. I think was it 90% on the SANS test of any kind. But it's a continuous wealth of information, and you get it in this sort of it's coming to you, but in a controlled fashion, right? That you get messages from people, questions, and then a bunch of people start responding. So it's the old school new what is it called, news board community. People putting a thing up and then people responding to it. But you know what? If you don't have one, and if you do some research and you didn't find any that you like, start your own. I'm sure you know 5 people, and they will know each know 5 people. But it takes a little effort. What Danny's doing, what Carlos is doing, what Erica is doing, right? Just get together and talk about this stuff. It looks a little cheesy the first time you do it, but once you realize you got people that think like you, which is the most important thing, you're like on your island on your own, like Chris and me, 2 hedgehogs in our own little holes, and then someone's like, "Hey, guy, come out here for a second." Like, oh wow, there's like other hedgehogs. Oh cool, let's go over there. There's mushrooms over there, right? So like, it'll what's the word? You build it and they will come. This is it, right? Start building. You got your little sandcastle you build that. The other kids will start coming with their shovels, and then now next thing you know, you built your 4-story sandcastle with jacuzzi outside.
Yeah, and that touches on kind of what James had mentioned in the comments here. It's likely easier for more established companies to build advocacy, but there's always going to be the new kids on the block who want to get attention and those first few big contracts. It starts from what we're talking about here, right? You got to start small, then scale. You got to start somewhere, and you don't need a go to market or launch with a fancy program. Think about that minimum viable advocacy program, right? The MEVAP.
I would go further. If you have a vendor you like, meaning the vendor that is closest to what we're talking about, or at least what you think we're talking about, reach out to that vendor and say, "Hey, I think what we got is pretty good. The relationship we got. Do you guys run customer meetings? Because any of those is a great place to start like this, especially with the vendor, because once they realize that they have existing customers willing to talk and advocate, that's it. They'll start pumping. This is how you tell them that there is value here. This is the reverse of it, right? How do you tell the sales team that there's value in this process? Show them value. What's value for them? Your attention. Give them a little attention. Hey, we can get together and chat about this. No stake required, right? So just whatever. Or if you got some budget you have to burn through, send me some swag so I can use it for my awareness training campaign for my employees, or something like that. Like any of that stuff, but just reach out. If you're a CISO, is my point.
Yeah, I think that whole bi-directional component of what you're talking about is sort of the, what we hope are the outcome of these type of conversations, right? That we're able to help one another at the end of the day, make our businesses better. And security kind of happens to be a big part of the glue that we're talking about. But that happens through being able to, reach out to each other on that level. I think that's pretty cool, Dimitri.
Yeah, let's add another question. We've talked about where CISOs hang out. We've kind of pulled the curtain back on where we kind of hang out. We've got our little hedgehogs that we're all in our bloody fields, or we're a bunch of mooses running around the woods. Where about the marketers? Chief marketing officer, chief salesperson. Where the hell do they hang out? Let's actually go hit them on their turf. Let's bring these conversations to them. Let's go sit at the conferences that they go to stand up and go, hey, y'all are doing your shit wrong, because we're here to help you understand how to be more effective about it. So where the hell do they hang out?
Well,
Danny, go ahead.
so I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Yes.
I'm wondering how much the percentage of CISOs that actually give a fuck like you and Dimitri do.
Ooh, damn it. I was not looking forward to that question.
That's what I'm
Because
wondering. I could tell you where we hang out. I could make a nice little LinkedIn post about it, but do you actually care?
I care,
Well, I know
but
you
I,
do. We talk every
but
week
I,
about this stuff.
but I do wonder how many. Well, I don't wonder.
I
I
would
know.
like for the CISOs to ask that question and to understand what we're going through, but is that I don't think is that top of mind? I don't know. I mean, it's a valid
Well, I
question
think
what you're saying.
it's back to the same pyramid. How many CISOs don't know? How many CISOs know but don't know what to do about it? And how many CISOs know and know what to do about it but don't care enough? Like,
Mm,
and for all three, there's something we got to do. For people who don't know, we just got to get it more out in LinkedIn. We're doing that. And we are doing that. That's part. I mean, we are here, so we are your tap into the CISO community. Every time we go on a seminar like this, it comes out and other CISOs see it. We talk about this all the time amongst
mhm.
the CISOs. And then again, then there are those that are, well, this is a problem, but what do I do about it? And now they're seeing that something can be done. Just reach out to your vendor. Say, hey, look, you're doing a good job for me. First of all, say hello to your boss and tell them I said this is a good job. And two, you want to do something together so we can spread the goodness here.
Mhm.
It's, I don't know if it's I think it's not that it's not happening. I think it's that it's not happening yet. It's very, very fresh and very young.
Yeah.
Danny,
What
you belong to, I mean, I think you belong to a cybersecurity marketing group or something, right? Is that specifically to cybersecurity?
shout out to Cybersecurity Marketing Society. They're a great group. 1,600 plus CMOs down to product marketers, across to CROs as well. Some vendors are in there as well, for the marketing, from the marketing side. You have Gartner groups, the Gartner subscriptions, Forbes subscriptions that CMOs are part of. You have WhatsApp groups, you have Discords, you have LinkedIn that's heavy there. You have meetups as well. It's very similar. I mean, I went through. I had a marketer actually interview me on how I buy and why I buy, and it is very similar to how the C-suite buys in security. So why do we continue the way we continue? I don't know if that's how we feel, but
I
it's largely similar.
okay, so this is an interesting one. I mean, as a percentage, where do you think we're at? The people that actually care, that want to affect change. Do we think that we're at 20%, 30%, 50,
I would
75%
say 10 to 15.
on
10
the
to
Yeah, I
CISO
15.
wouldn't.
side or the marketing and
Yes,
sales and
the
marketing
CISO
side?
side. The marketing and sales side, I don't want to bite my tongue. But
Chris, I think
I think it's very low. Too low
I think
what it should
yeah,
be.
I think it's pretty low because CISOs are still trying to solve the immediate problem and are
That's
not
right.
concentrating on
But
that next
but
thing.
I can't solve my problem if I can't figure out who the hell to trust out there in the market. I mean, that's part of the issue. I look at the issue. It's a perfect example. I need the first thing anybody should ever do when they walk into a freaking environment is understand the landscape. So you figure out what eyes you have in the environment. For that, you can either have something built in or you got to put something in place. That's that's job number one. And then if I have to look at 20 vendors and I've got to figure out which one of the 10 to 15 of those are lying to me, which ones I can trust, that's a shit ton load of work I don't have time for. I need
Mhm.
one person I can trust as a partner to go, hey, help me understand the very, very first task on my list of things to do as a CISO. And so I think it behooves us to say, hey, we have to find those trusted partners because we can't do this alone. I'm fighting a fight in front of us. We're all fighting that fight in front of us. And we're also having to figure out who stabbed us in the back. half the damn
So
time as well.
the problem, Chris, is that most people have a very hard time being that vulnerable openly. Saying, I don't know, help me figure something out is a very vulnerable place to put yourself in. If you're a CISO who you think everyone in your company relies on to be safe, and then you realize that actually you're the only person, or at least the person with the most understanding on the topic, and that's kind of scary as well. Like if you're in the company, you are it from
Yeah.
technology protection perspective, and the uh, responsibility that you carry. That's very hard to come away from that and say, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not sure what I'm doing. Hey, can you help me out? That's very difficult to do for CISOs to ask that. So that's why I think also percentage is pretty low right now.
I wonder if
Um,
that's just an awareness thing. I mean, that's back to a couple of LinkedIn posts that maybe need to happen. Hey, look, it's
we,
okay to admit that you don't know.
I was just thinking that after we're done here, I'm going to put a LinkedIn post up offering my participation in any kind of, those like the 1 day long CISO events where like there's 30 vendors in the hallway trying to give you the cup or whatever. I'm going to offer to do a session for the CISOs on how to deal with your vendors to make vendors better. Maybe
That's
we
a
got
great
to
idea.
start having some of those sessions.
Interesting.
And
It's a
I mean,
really great idea. One thing I think also happens is that when I'm speaking to someone and they have a ton of restraints, right? One, they don't have enough people, but also their budget restraint and their time restraint, they're almost forced into some sort of transaction, right? I need to get a this, and I only have so much time and dollars to get a this. I don't have time or I'm getting 3 bids and I'm going with the lowest one and I'm moving on. I mean, that
That,
happens
that,
as well, which it
that's
doesn't do anyone any good, but it does happen. Oh, it's ultimately it can be catastrophic, right?
yeah.
Like 12 months, 18 months down the road, but that's when people aren't building systems around their businesses in order to think about these things and process them. It's really
I,
they're just chasing their tail the whole time, but that forces them to be transactional.
so I wonder how much of that's also down to our longevity. So that's an
Could be.
interesting one. Yeah, I wonder if that's part of it as well, because I look at where I'm at now, and I mean, I know the odds are stacked against me, especially me. Um, longevity has not been my middle name for quite some length of time, but it would be nice to feel like I'd be here for a while. Yet, let's face it, CISOs are what, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months typically? And so I'm going to go with that least bid because it's easy, quick, simple. I don't have to worry about it. And the chances are by the time the shit's integrated and everybody starts complaining about it, my ass is out of there anyway onto the next one. That I
in
think
fact,
sucks.
they'll
You know,
fire you to pay for the damage you caused while using the benefit that you leave. So that's how
No
it's supposed to
shit.
be, right? That's
Yeah.
our job.
so if you get brought in as an SDR or a BDR for a software company, there's a certain amount of churn expected, right? You look at salespeople's typically their resumes. There's what I don't know what the number is, but it's like 12 months, 18 months, whatever, right? People are hopping around from all different types of reasons, and so it's almost like almost a cultural problem. But I think it's worth talking and thinking about.
There's a really great question here. I want to head into Q&A now.
Yeah.
And this is a great, unfortunately, I can't see oh, Steve. Okay, Steve, yes. Uh, Steve said, why all the focus on CISOs when VPs, directors, architects, et cetera, are often the movers and the shakers? I will say I agree. And from
Mhm.
an audience first perspective, this is something that we want to focus on is are the directors, the architects, engineers. But any kind of comment on that in terms of doing research and engaging with kind of the lieutenants with within the organization?
I want to chime in on this because I say this all the time. So those are my people most of the time, the directors, the VPs, because a lot of the times I can't get to the CISO. It is literally within my organization. They require us to have access to what they call power buying power, economic buyer. And I get that. But a lot of the times the VPs and the directors can become my advocate to the CISO because they report to the CISO. So it's really, and I'm not, calling out the vendors and the resellers, but it's on us why we do that. And it is important to get to the CISO, but if I don't get to the CISO, I have to answer to that.
Nice.
I think it's lack of education again in the industry. A CISO is it's a particular title, but it's not a particular person. It often or can be a combination of people in the company. Even if there is a person with a title, like you guys said, it's those different roles. So if that's where the progress is needed the most, some VP or director or an architect, then you start there. You don't need a CISO per se, but if you're engaged correctly and provide necessary guidance to that person, you will end up with a conversation with a CISO. It's the magic key is in your hands. It's not. It's for you to lose. If you already started having a conversation with director or VP or whoever else that isn't a CISO, if you don't get to a CISO, 90% it's the result of your work, positive or negative. I'm not gonna say it's your fault, but if you approach it correctly, you may not get a CISO conversation in the next week, but if you approach this correctly, aim at progress, aim at maintaining a relationship, you will inevitably end up talking to a CISO.
I agree.
Well, I think from our go ahead.
No, it's all you.
Well, I was just going to say from our side, I think it's just important to have those open and honest conversations from the beginning. We talked a little bit about tire kickers last time, but I think through our process, like meaning talking to people and validating whether it's a good fit or not, you just have open dialogue about where they are in the system and who makes ultimate decisions and how their process works. And I think if you do that, you're good. You don't necessarily need to talk to a CISO or a CFO if you understand where you fall in line with everything and everyone's being honest and upfront. I think if you understand their buying process, I think.
Yeah, I'd love for that to be an answer that I could give to a higher up in my organization,
I get that.
any organization.
No, I get it. We're a little more lenient over here.
Erica, I've offered my time to salespeople who have problem doing exactly that. Not to sell.
It's not that I don't. It's not that I
No,
have
but
a
I'm saying
problem.
no, but like if your management doesn't understand this, and you're in a BDR, an SDR, or an account executive that's facing this problem,
Yeah.
maybe that's what you ask a CISO for. Don't ask them to talk to them about selling them the pure piece of software. Maybe instead ask for their help to help you get the message out to your management about what works best with CISOs.
That is perfect. That was my next thought that I was going to say. So you took it up. You took it away from me.
I'm saving your voice. I know you're saving.
Yeah, thank you.
But that can be an odd KPI, right? If it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I think that's where you try to fit everything into sort of some box that's not necessarily open for one honest conversation and understanding of reality. And it can hurt you more than it can help you, right? Like we've talked last time, pounding on someone, hey, I need to talk to someone because I need to check this box off, or I can't take it into whoever and get approval to get pricing or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to head on to one more question because we're past the hour already, which is great. I could go on for hours, but I want to let everybody go. Are LinkedIn referrals acceptable from and CISO approved?
You mean like if we conclude some form of a sale and I write you a referral on LinkedIn, and could that then be used? Hey, look, this CISO approved me type of thing.
I will not assume. Tim could maybe shed some light on that, but perhaps, or maybe a LinkedIn. A CISO has mentioned something. I don't know if a CISO would mention something great about explicitly about a vendor On LinkedIn,
I would-
maybe yes, but
I'll
anyway.
take what I did, meaning if someone did this thing, which I've done in the past, that could work. So if I like how a salesperson or some company did something, I will call them out on LinkedIn, say, these guys have done a good job. That is a referral I'm willing to give, assuming there is some, it's that they've earned it. And to me, then if someone sends this to me and says, look, someone you are friends with on LinkedIn, put this on LinkedIn about us. Which, would that improve my chances of asking you some questions about your program? I think that could work.
See, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it for a couple of reasons. And there was a comment that was made earlier on. I don't know what's going to happen to that company in 1, 3, 5, 10 years time. And so put the referral out on. So to me, it's a double-edged sword. One, you've got that one. So you got that referral out on that company that might have just turned into a bunch of numpties because of no fault through certain people's. But you've also, and the other reason I don't like doing it with a company one is you've now also said, if I'm doing any OSINT or any intelligence research, now I've potentially opened up who knows what about me. So I've almost, as opposed to now the vendor telling everybody that I'm running their software, I'm doing it my damn self. For me, the LinkedIn referral would be, I get a 3-way conversation going, or I'd reach out to a friend, like I'd reach out to Dimitri and say, hey, look, just spent the last year using these folks. It looked like you were looking for something like that. Take a look at them. If you want, I'll get you in a conversation with them. And Dimitri then has the opportunity to say, yeah, go for it, or no. If he says, yes, go for it, then I'll just do a 3-way conversation. Then, so Dimitri meet Danny, Danny meet Dimitri, you all go have some good conversations. And then that's it. And that to me, A, doesn't expose anything. B, keeps that as a very now kind of conversation. And then I'm happy to do those kinds of referrals.
Love it. There's one comment here. I don't know if we should touch on this comment here. I think, Chris, you might have hissed at that prior to my question. But
What did I hiss on? I don't hiss.
I don't know.
Maybe I do. I do hiss.
There's a comment here when we talked about CISOs. Why CISOs and not the VPs and the directors and the engineers?
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's okay. I kept quiet on that one because it is tough. And partly because everybody wants the CISO's head. Let's face it. I mean, there's two things. One, the vendor wants the CISO's head. Secondly, now from a fiduciary standpoint, most companies have to have a named CISO. And let's face it, when shit goes wrong, we're the first ones that get the blame. So that's probably why. Now, do we rely on everybody inside the team? Hell yes. Do we take feedback from everybody in the team? Absolutely. If I'm talking to a vendor and one of the team I get negative feedback from the vendor, then I'll dig into it. And I'm actually one of our crews just literally stood 4 feet away from me, and we were looking at a particular vendor, and I got some pretty interesting feedback from him on it. And I actually kicked it to the vendor and said, "Hey, I need commentary, and I need to know what the hell happened here." Now, to their credit, they stepped up and they gave the commentary, checked in with the crew. But it's one of those things where everybody's feedback is necessary in that loop.
Right. Okay, well, we've headed towards almost 1 minute and 1 hour. No, 1 minute, 1 hour and 10 minutes. We're gonna wrap it up. Any final thoughts before we head off?
I vote for a fourth session.
Fourth session, shall we?
Yeah, anytime.
I vote for that. And just Danny, thanks an absolute ton for putting this together.
100%.
Simple as
I
that.
agree.
And for everybody listening, it's been fantastic.
Yep.
Can I
Thank
can
you,
ask for a
everyone.
poll from people that listen to see if they want a 4th session?
Love it.
Yes.
So that's number one. And quickly, number two, a year from now, none of you should be in a position to say we haven't done enough. Okay, so whatever that is in your mind, do that. If you need help doing that from one of us, or at least from me, I know Chris is hiding further than me in his hedgehog / moose hole. We are here, but do something. A year from now, 5 years from now, we should be able to say we've done something to make this industry a bigger player in the safety and security of many, many things.
Love it.
Amazing. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to our wonderful panel who has joined us for 3 weeks in a row. That is absolutely wonderful and super helpful. This has been an incredible experience for me. I know that several of our listeners have expressed a lot of gratitude towards you for doing this and answering very brutally honest and honestly. um, this is our last session, but we might run a bonus episode, but that's up to you, the listeners. Comment 4th session in the comments below if you want us to run a bonus episode with open Q&A. Again, if you didn't have an opportunity to listen to the whole session, all of the recordings will be on audiencefirst.fm. That's audience1st.fm. Plus extra goodies will be provided via email. Please do let us know if this was good or bad, what we could have done better, because we want feedback from all of you and we want to improve for future episodes. I will be doing this again. This is not the last series I'll be doing. We have to continue this. Yes, we need more mooses. We need more animals, more
Meese, it's meese.
We need more
meese.
meese.
More Mises.
But yeah, we're figuring it out how to brand this, whether it's going to be Building Relationship Capital Series or CISO Sellers Mashup Series. We'll figure it out. In any case, we will see you all again, the panel, because they are loyal
whether you like it
advocates
or
of
not.
Audience First. Yes.
Totally, 100%.
But thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
Erica. Yeah.